Released in 2014 by developers Digital Confectioners, Depth is a competitive indie PvP game that pits first-person treasure hunting divers against third-person shark players, and matches take place, as you guessed, beneath the surface in the deep blue sea. There are servers in 4 continents, 3 match types including private matchmaking and a quick match, which all take place on a good amount of underwater maps. Matches can last between 10 to 15 minutes depending on player skill and the type of match mode. The 3 match modes are Blood and Gold, Megalodon Hunt, and Hide and Seek. The most popular mode is Blood and Gold, and the objective of the match for the diver players is to escort an underwater drone called Steve. Divers have to ensure that it's unharmed and fixed if damaged before it gets destroyed, which will end the game. As the shark players, your goal is to pretty much eat up as many human players as possible and to ensure that the drone never makes it to the end of the map. There are 6 players per match, consisting of 4 divers and 2 sharks. To start a match in Quick Match, players will be put into a queue and their role of diver or shark will be decided randomly. In matchmaking, however, you get to choose which role you prefer. Once in the match lobby, both sets of players get to customize their loadout by buying weapons and equipment with a fixed amount of cash, or in the shark players' case, points. The divers can choose their gender, while the sharks get to pick which species they prefer, and there are a handful of fan favorites available, such as the great white, the mako, and the hammerhead shark. Throughout the match, players can pick up treasure to cash in and earn more money and points by performing well. Divers can then buy better weapons and upgrades during the match after being killed to respawn and settle the score. We particularly like the revenge feature. For shark players, they can evolve their sharks to better versions of their species, gaining access to better skill and damage upgrades. Finally, for every game you play, your performance will contribute XP and advancement towards your player profile, and the higher your level, you'll be able to unlock more types of weapons, equipments, and skins for your profile that can be picked in the loadout screen before a match. Now that we've given you an overview of the game, let's go through the pros and cons to decide if Depth is worth the money. The pros: fast and furious gameplay. At the core of the gameplay during matches work pretty well, both as a first-person shooter and a third-person action game. The rules and objectives of the various match modes ensure that both sets of players are constantly on edge and pumped up to kill one another, making for some great fast-paced gaming. As a diver, I couldn't help but feel the tension rising, while the paranoia creeps in knowing that my fellow divers and I are being hunted. The game makes good use of audio cues here, and divers will hear a heartbeat getting louder and louder as the sharks, which can conceal themselves, get closer. You can play it as Counter-Strike underwater or a Jaws simulator, and both ways are just fine. No pay to win. The game has microtransactions, but we're happy to report that almost all of the items in the store are purely cosmetic, ranging from diver outfits to weapon skins and shark skins. While we do not think skins alone are worth 7 Malaysian ringgit and up, at least there isn't any options to buy skills and upgrades right off the bat to give newer players an advantage on everyone else. Match types and maps. With 3 match modes and 13 different maps, there's plenty to see in Depth to keep the surroundings interesting for players. Each quick match I've played has almost always rotated the maps enough that I didn't feel any hint of repetition. Each underwater location has its perks, hidden passageways, and more, and the resourceful divers and sharks will do well to explore and master the different maps for a navigational advantage, which is very handy, especially if you want to be the ultimate deep-sea predator. Multiple region servers. We liked that players get to pick either a couple or all of the 5 regional servers, located in Asia, Australia, Europe, and both the east and west of the United States. Not only do you get to pick the best choice for your latency, but you also have the option to choose to play with a large depth of players, pun intended. This also means that queue times can be relatively short and you can find players to play with from around the globe without hassle. Game size. Our final pro for Depth is its game size. The game only takes about 2 GB of space, and as game reviewers who have storage that fill very quickly, we're super appreciative of its small file size. This also makes downloading the game super fast, especially if you have pretty bad internet like half of Malaysia does. The cons. Presentation and graphics. Depth may be fun to play, but it scores low points for presentation and graphics. Textures of characters, weapons, and most of the underwater assets look very bland, even on the highest graphic settings. In contrast, it appears that more attention was given towards the design of the sharks, which in comparison looks significantly better detailed. The music in the game is also a big no. filling your ears with synth vibes that's supposed to evoke some sense of dark adventure. After hearing it on loop over and over in the menu, we turned it off for good. For your listening displeasure, it's the same music that you're hearing over my voice in this review. Sorry. Balance. One thing we noticed after multiple hours of depth matches, pun intended, is the disparity of class balance between the divers and the sharks. The shark class, if played by veterans, are always going to have a major leg up on even the most experienced divers who can collect enough gold to buy higher powered weapons. When the game first launched, the developers have mentioned that they intended for sharks to have a win ratio of 60% to divers at 40%. That has since changed in patch notes, but it still feels the same. While divers will argue that this isn't the case and spew that get good garbage, we wouldn't be having this discussion in the first place if the game was properly balanced from the start. Tutorial. Depth's tutorial can be broken down into two parts, a visual reading section on the main menu and a full tutorial match. While there's plenty of good information to soak in the reading section, the playable tutorial just doesn't do enough to explain certain important mechanics and match types to prepare newer players for real games. We found that ignoring the tutorial altogether and just jumping into matches is by far the best way to understand the game as soon as possible. Dull playable characters. The problem with having a PvP game underwater for diver players is that your avatar is of course going to be wearing a dive suit. While most players don't care about how they look when they're kicking Jaws' ass, we feel this is a missed opportunity to give the characters some form of identity and characteristics through visual representation. Currently, when picking a diver, you can read about who they are in their bio, but who cares? Or more accurately, who reads? Instead, the devs should show off that personality by diversifying the look and feel of each diver, besides just adding a few hairstyles and gender. Maybe even have special weapons only available to a certain diver that they have the option to buy and upgrade, similar to what Evolve Stage 2 does. That would make the diver characters much more relatable and definitely more interesting. Our verdict. Overall, Depth certainly is an appealing game to shark fans, and its fast action gameplay does make it fun from time to time, especially if you're playing with friends. The amount of variation in gameplay will keep players around for quite a bit as long as you can tolerate the poor graphics and balance issues. Priced at 47 Malaysian ringgit, however, we don't recommend buying this at full price, and it's best to pick it up during a sale. We're giving this a score of 6 out of 10. If you like the concept but can't get into playing as divers or sharks, check out our review of Evolve Stage 2 by clicking the video on the screen now. Evolve Stage 2 is a similar game that's free to play and is superior to Depth in many ways. And that wraps up our review of Depth. If you like our content, do give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more game reviews. We're really close to hitting that magical 100 subscriber count, so we do appreciate all the support we can get to continue putting out quality game reviews for you guys. Once again, I'm Adrian from Game Reviews Malaysia, and we thank you for watching.